Welcome back for episode 2, or the Taurus and Feminine discussion here for this whole sign astrological series I'm doing. I'm Dan, this is North Node Astrology. Here's the initial chart here for the full moon that's going to take place in November here in just a couple months, with the moon and Uranus conjunct in Taurus, and how this is going to play out. I went into rulerships a little bit in the previous video, and here we are with the rulerships on that regular transit chart and what this full moon is really going to be all about. I don't think I really went into certain feels or how this moon is going to feel, and maybe I need to before I roll any more forward, so that when we start dissecting it more into Taurus versus the typical Aries or the Aquarius chart that a lot of astrologers tend to use as a 0 point, then we can see how things are really starting to shift. So this chart does start at 13 degrees of Taurus, which means that Venus is the chart ruler here. She's actually pretty strong. There is a series of calculations called essential dignities, and it's basically to figure out which planets are the strongest in any chart. And Venus being pretty strong in this one, and being the ruler of the rising sign, is the ruling chart ruler here. And her being in the ninth house, with Saturn ruling there as in Capricorn, is a steadying thing. It's trying to be steady. It's trying to steady things up. However, there are some issues, and one of the issues is the moon is with Uranus, and that can be very erratic. I said in the first episode that anytime the moon is with another planet, or anytime two planets, especially with the moon, is with another planet, it's essentially blocking. It's blocking that energy. So what you have to do is you have to move through your emotions to get to that planet that the moon is conjunct with in astrology, right? So with this, it's Uranus, and it's people, it is technology, it is intelligence, it is how to move forward, right? And if you do not move through your emotions with this, with the sun in Scorpio, where Uranus is more powerful in Scorpio because of that trust and that breakthrough element, so then he can just leap forward if he's got power or control, or, there's a trusting element, whether you trust yourself or trust something else, or, there's knowledge, something has happened, right? There's a breakthrough moment, breakthrough. You have to move through the emotions, and you need to have steady values, right? Venus in Capricorn is steady values. Her values have been the same for 30 years. They are foundational. With Venus there in the ninth house for this transit chart, this is about what have the values been in your family for 30 years, right? Not just in the fourth house for Cancer, but this is ninth house. This is your heritage. Do you have a personal heritage of stable value systems to be able to guide you through this full moon and lead you forward into things that have more value, right? Taurus. That's the thing. It's just the beginning. It starts with that value, and it's emotional value. It's the moon, right? So and then the value systems for this kind of go back to, like I said, in the ninth house, Mercury is in Sagittarius in the 8th. Now we're going back to a trust center because of the 8th house, and in something that has not fallen down. Like, has the wisdom fallen down? Has your mind fallen down? Do you believe, just because you think things, you think you believe them? No, you're just thinking them. You don't believe them. Thoughts are not beliefs. Now, beliefs you can think about things you believe, and have beliefs about your thoughts, but they are not the same thing. And with with Mercury and Jupiter opposite here during this full moon, that is going to definitely come into play. Jupiter has been retrograding. He is at 19 degrees of Gemini. So there's already been a pulling back. Do we really believe that? Let's talk about the things we thought we believed. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about heritage. Let's talk about things that have been around for a while. Do they need to be there? And we can go back to the value systems with Venus and Capricorn, and then Saturn himself. Saturn in Pisces does it work? Does it work? Do my value systems work for me? Does my brain work? Does my thought get me somewhere? Do I have the wisdom to break through this situation? This is not about emotion. This is not about intuition. Right? Not yet. We haven't popped into the intuitive nature here. Now we're just talking about data. We are talking about information. We are kind of trying to push the moon aside here. We're looking at values and information. What is more valuable to me? All right. So that's what people are talking about, their values. People are talking about things that have been around that are falling down, right? Jupiter in Gemini, the things that are not going the way they used to. People aren't as sharp as they used to. It's probably going to be a lot of people around this time. They're going to have a hard time speaking, especially and without speaking in an emotional way, right? So now that we've talked about speaking, let's go into the third house, which is where communication comes from, and the moon. So we've got the moon and Uranus, because we talked about the rulerships before. The moon and the Uranus are together. Now, Uranus can really break through with mental things. It really can. But you have to be stable with Saturn somewhere. Like, if your Saturn's in Leo, you have to be solid in yourself. Your Saturn's in Taurus, you have to be solid in your values. If it's in Libra, you have to be fair, right? If it's in Virgo, you have to have steady work. You have to have steady work ethic. You might be, taking care of something every day. It has to be steady, not being yanked all over the place. And that's what gives stability to Uranus anywhere it goes. And if you don't have that, if your Saturn's not stable, Uranus is going to be all over the place. So third house moon Uranus ruling that. We're allowed to be talking about displaced families. We're already talking about it in the news. It's already there. However, some people might get mad at this. A lot of those people that are being moved into various countries all over the world, families are as men and women and children together. A large group of men that are 15 to 35, those are not families. They could be, but generally a large group of men aging 15 to 35 is not considered a family. There are words for those things, and usually they're called an army, depending on what era of time we're talking about. But so we've got moon Uranus in the third, and here moving into the fourth house is where we start having more big problems here. This is a family things. Now, Mars by then has moved from Cancer, where it is now. It's several degrees inside of Cancer. It has moved into Leo, and it's about to stop. It's going to move backwards, but it hasn't yet. It's slowing down. Mars slowing down always has problems moving forward, right? He's the planet of action. He is the planet of aggression. He is the planet of, he's the old world ruler of the ending, right? Saturn and Mars ruled endings because they didn't discover Pluto. They didn't know about Pluto. So Mars was in Scorpio, and he was endings, and there were mysterious things there. Well, like if Mars was in a favorable position and you didn't know where Pluto was and somebody just died, you were like, well, the gods wanted you to die. That's it. That's the end of it, right? Here in this chart, we have the moon and Uranus ruling Mars. So we have the soldier in, trying to be in his own house, like he's in his own bedroom, but his house is ruled by the moon and, by his mother and his mother's friends. And that is in opposition to, you see that Pluto in Capricorn there at 29 degrees trying to come back forward, moving back into Aquarius. There is transformation that is happening in Capricorn. There's transformation that is happening as far as relationships are concerned in this chart. There are things coming to light. There are things being shown about what we thought certain structures or institutions were, who we thought was solid, whether we can put those pieces together or not. And, Mars he's trying to get some energy here, but, he's got a decent amount of energy. He's got just as much energy in this chart as Venus does, and just as much as the Sun does. So he's juiced up. He's got some power, but he's in the 4th house. So it's about family. It's about home. It's about being safe. It is about being nurtured and getting nurtured. So this is, don't be a baby, right? It's Leo. It is the child. It is the, not necessarily the infant or the small one, because that's Gemini. But again, that might be another aspect here, to not be a baby. Don't be an aggressive baby, right? With Mars and Leo. So allow that Pluto in Capricorn to slow you down, right? Mars works for Pluto. Mars also works for Saturn. And here we've got Neptune trying to slow Mars down, trying to ebb him down, trying to chill him out. All right, but Neptune's not at full power in the 11th house. There's a lot of air moving around that water. And with Pluto, he is, being Scorpio, being a water planet, he's in Saturn's house in the 10th, but Saturn's in the ultimate waters. So there's more water going on here. So this is a very watery thing. I imagine there's going to be lots of tears about a lot of stuff. People are going to be screaming and crying, and people may not be heard. It's going to be very erratic. The discussion about things that have been going on from Mercury, right, that's in Sagittarius, is there's a lot of stories, right? Sagittarius is the story, right? Now, the opposite of that is Gemini, which is where the facts are. And you've heard, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. That's definitely true, right? The best stories are the ones with the biggest details, but only to a certain point, and then they break, and then they fall down, right? So this is Mars trying to push forward and towards life, right? He's in Leo. This is towards life, taking care of stuff, all right, at the end of Cancer. Take care of things and then push forward into life. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to want. I want a better life, right? Well, how do you get a better life? Well, you got to know who you are. You have to be able to, the 5th house rulership there with the Sun in Scorpio is, you have to be able to transform yourself, transform, your structure of fairness. Now, this is after the election. Transform your structure of what you think is fair. Or if you want to control fairness, you got to get it, fairness can be controlled. It can be controlled. Libra can be bent by Scorpio, and that is Scorpio there, the South Node in Libra. There's gonna be, I feel there's gonna be a lot of people that think things haven't been fair, and they want, how am I supposed to have a better life? How am I supposed to have a better life if this shit's not fair? Well, start small. Gemini, Mercury. Start where you're at. Where is your home? Moon. Do take care of things. Don't get caught up in the flood of other people's emotions. And this may be another thing, right? Saturn is not doing good in this chart. He's, there's a square point, and with Jupiter and Mercury there at 19, 16, and 12 degrees. Saturn's a balance point. So you need to know where your stability is in the world. Is it in the world or is it not? Is it, in being in the middle of that, Jupiter and Gemini, or Mercury and Mercury in Sag, are you identifying your beliefs, or are you out in the world yammering away about things that were hidden from you, that you do not know, that you did not dig into, right? Mercury and Gemini, there's a lot of things going on there. There's a lot. In 8th house, like 8th house is anything that's hidden, anything that's occulted, right? So how long have you spent in that space? Do you actually know what the story is? Do you really know? Or do you believe you know? Well, I know enough. If you say things like, I know enough, or I don't need to hear that, or that, nope, that's not what this is about. Mercury data, information, doesn't care. Now, emotions, people are going to get carried away about things about their cars and things that other people say and things that somebody that's older than you says, or people that are younger than you, or, like, you're outside of my group influence. I don't care about what you have to say. That's another portion of this. So now that we've got, most of that, now the other issue is here we have, before I move on into Taurus, you see that we have Mars and Neptune ruling the 12th house here. Now, Neptune is the natural ruler of the 12th house, of Pisces. And this moment, right, this full moon, at least starts with a spiritual action. It starts with a spiritual motion, starts with a letting go, or not a giving up, but a giving in. Like, okay, that's a thing. I have, this is where I'm at. That's where that thing is at. Whether you like it or not, it's there. And acknowledgement allows you to pop through, right? And once you acknowledge the thing, then you have essentially released the emotion, right? Because the 12th house is where everything collapses in. And that's also where Venus is at her full strength in Pisces versus, in Capricorn in the 9th. It's stable, but she is restricted. And that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, right? Nobody, I think I said in the first video, nobody gets mad at gravity unless you drop something, right? Well, if you had control over it, if you had, your balance on it, you would not have, tripped on something that was on the floor that you didn't put away, that wasn't where it was supposed to be. Your rules, your balance, Saturn, Libra, Capricorn, were erratic, Uranus, and then you dropped it. And it broke, 12th house. So people can think they are doing the right thing. I think that's the other thing here. With Neptune and Mars ruling the 12th house and the North Node being in Aries, people think they've done the right thing, or they believe, but they're not sure, or you shouldn't be sure. I did the right thing and move on, as opposed to, shouting from the treetops, I did the right thing, you should do the thing because I did. Nope. Mercury is not in the 10th house. Mars is not in the 10th house. This is not about standing at the mountaintop and screaming at people. This is about talking to people who are in your inner circle and being more stable with them. And if you can, make inroads with them, if you can make a connection with them, cool, then you can be family with them. And if you cannot make a connection with them, that's Pisces, right? That's the little two curved things, right? And the line in the middle. Will you meet me here? This is one little circle line. This is my circle. That's your circle. Will you meet me at this one middle point? No? Okay, then that's done. But yes, then it's magic. Poof, right? And as soon as you make that yes or no decision, then the direction you're supposed to go, the direction you're going to go, you will be intuitively shown. You will be shown. It will not be difficult to see. unless you're caught up in your emotions. If something happens, you will know, right? But if you're caught up in your emotions, you're going to let that moon and that Uranus yank that Mars around, and you're going to attack. So, people are probably going to want to attack boomers, and people are probably going to want to attack anybody with a Leo kind of energy to them, so that's the general breakdown of this chart, and now we're definitely going to go into Taurus. Here's the chart at 0 degrees of Taurus. Now, some things have not moved very far, and other things have, right? North Node in Aries is still 12th house. That moon Uranus is still in the first. Jupiter's still in the third. Mars is still in the 4th house. The Sun in Scorpio is still in the 7th. Mercury is still in the 8th, and Venus is still in the 9th. However, Pluto is now in the 9th house. It is not in the 10th house. There is and I will just go ahead and this is the chart of the feminine, right? The masculine is Aries. He takes charge. He, leads in. He, we kind of went over that in the first video, and now we are in the feminine, right? So we are wanting we were wanting somebody wise, right? That's what we're being guided towards. At least that's what this chart says to me. Venus in the 9th house is attracting stability that has been around for a while, right? And that she is leading towards it with her intuition, but with Uranus retrograde here, with less connection with the global community, less connection with her friends, less connection with technology, less connection with, the rest of humanity. What is good for me? Not what's good for everybody, what's good for me. Now, there are certain value systems that Venus is looking at, with Saturn in Pisces in the 11th house, also with Neptune there. But she is asking, does that meet my criteria? Does it or not? Is that my tribe? Yes or no? Are those my people? Yes or no? Are those my friends? If you're not my friends, I'm not going to listen to you. If you have not decided to be with me, or if you've not decided to be my friend, and this could be, I have decided on this value system, so if you don't decide with me on that, you're not my friend. And that might be a lot of this too, because like I said, this full moon is after the election, after the presidential election. So there may be families splitting up. There may be relationships splitting up. And masculines, this is a very different mindset for the masculine, because he's having to look at, I want to create a life, right? Versus what the feminine is after here. She wants, a stable home. She wants to create a stable home. Or they might be, again, the other way around with this, with Mars and Leo in the 4th house, might be, I am at home attacking somebody that's got Leo energy, a leader. I am at home with attacking somebody because they have, that 9th house Pluto in Capricorn hasn't popped in, somebody that's been behind the scenes manipulating everything, manipulating all these relationships, or manipulating justice. Because Scorpio is the 7th house, right? That's the house of fairness and values for women. Now, we can go back to the rulerships here, and we can see that Mars and Pluto are ruling the 7th house. Well, this is where things get very mixy. For men and masculines, Aries people or Aquarius people will say things like, it is what it is, right? Because with Aries being the 1st house, and Taurus being the 2nd, Gemini being the 3rd, as far as the archetypal astrological world goes, yes. Now this starts to get kind of upended when we are looking at leading with Venus, leading with a value system, we are not taking action. Action is the last thing on our minds. Action is the last thing that we want to do. And for the feminine, there is action that needs to be taken, but typically what the feminine would like is for that to be somebody that's in her life that is fair, that she is in a relationship with, right? Libra, or somebody that is, somebody that, or maybe even she has been working on that fairness, and if her value systems have broken down there and it's too far, then she will take action, but not until. And she doesn't want to. She wants to negotiate, right? And that, negotiation, if it keeps falling down, then you end up with the power structures in Scorpio. If you keep negotiating, somebody that's not negotiating is going to run you over. The story of Shaka Zulu, he was a king of the Zulu nation, one of the influential monarchs in the Zulu nation in the early 1800s, and he decided that there had been too much negotiation, that his nation needed power and strength. So he started going after it. He started taking the power and strength for himself, because everything had been watered down. And that was his opinion. So instead of continuing to negotiate, he took action, and he killed people. He took action. It was like, I've had enough of this. This is not going well. This is not, I don't feel like this is what my ancestors would have wanted. I'm going to take action. I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to get in there and do it. And because he knew how to manipulate certain people, or he manipulated certain, situations by killing certain people, right? And that's what a, Pluto Mars in the 7th house would be. Too much negotiation will tip the scales. If you work too hard at negotiating and you just don't go, that's too far, this is not improving, right? That's a negotiation for this chart. Is the negotiation improving things? Is the decision improving things? Is the relationship that I'm in improving my life? Is it improving my daily life? Is that, that legal decision that is way out of my hands, doesn't have anything to do with my life? Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it affects your life. Just because you do like something doesn't mean it affects your life. You can allow it to. You can allow that to affect your life. And this chart can do that, because Venus, is exalted in Pisces and in the 11th house for the feminine, right? Because that's what women do. Women they can bring community together. That's the global community. That's Pisces. It can either bring it together or it can completely erode it. And there's going to be, like, anybody that ever listens to this, y'all probably going to be mad at me. All I'm doing is reading the astrology and telling you what Pisces does, right? Telling you what Venus does, telling you what Mercury does. So an important thing for anybody that's a Taurus, or anybody, that is a feminine, is the 2nd house is values, right? It is slow. It is not fast. Making quick decisions is not good for women. Now, if they're going towards value, now Gemini is on the surface. It's very fast and you can see it. Now, does it have the value? You have to, and the balance side of that is the 8th house in Sagittarius. Can you see is somebody selling you a story about whether that's good or not? They're like, oh yeah, this thing's great. It does this and that. Oh, this situation's going to be awesome, right? Or if you have family heritage, and you do know, and there are, let's say, secrets. There are trade secrets, right? That about something then you can make a quick decision. But if you do not have those deep understood secrets, you need to take some time and look at that and go, okay, I want to make a quick decision, but I need to not do that. I need to slow down and look at this. What is that? And then when you do finally look at it, you have an emotional response. Boop. Okay. Make a decision, have an emotional response. The difficulty that, and I am a Cancer Mercury, so I kind of identify with this sort of psychology here. Separating thought and emotion is not easy for some people. It can be learned. But you have to really lean into it. You have to go, okay, am I thinking about this or am I feeling about it? Right? And the sun ruling the fourth house here, moving on from that, this is about relationships. Is somebody dominating your relationships? Are you controlling your relationships? Are you manipulating relationships to have one at home? That way you can cause the change that you want. This is the power of the feminine. This is the power. Not taking action, but in actually manipulation of, daily bending the values in Libra, the constantly, touching one side of the scale, tipping it, right? Until one day in Scorpio, you've realized that, oh, I've negotiated completely out of this. I've negotiated my way into something that I wanted. And now, especially with this transit, Mars and Leo, boop, somebody else will take the action for me. A leader will take the action for me. I think that, voting situations might be this Taurus. I think it might be. 7th house, Scorpio. Because you don't know you don't know who voted for who. But then the outcome, the story comes afterwards, right? Sagittarius, and then Capricorn, the decision, done, bam, right? And then everybody knows, Aquarius. And then that becomes the new standard, right? Or at least for women, that becomes the new standard for humanity. So, 5th house Mercury, from Sag, there's going to be, are you creating work, right? Are you creating are you working through this? Are you working through the situation? Are you working to improve the situation, right? Are you working to add to the story? Or are you working to hide something for yourself? Because, 8th house Scorpio things is mental health, right? So mind is 3rd house, 3, and then 5th house is Leo, right, is life. So if you start at Cancer and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get to Scorpio. So, and it can also work from Gemini if we're talking about Aries. So that's, Gemini is the 3rd house, and then you go over, 5, 1, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, right? It's mental health. 8th house and Scorpio are both mental health. So women, due to their nature, or Tauruses, even somebody that's a Taurus that does this, can be more susceptible to mental health problems than other people. And for Tauruses and women, feminines, your relationships can cause you turmoil. They can. But if you use that discernment, those decision-making skills in Gemini, like during this moon, and you don't allow, that Jupiter in, retrograde in Gemini, the decisions that you thought were better or that somebody told you, right? That's Jupiter is things that other people told you. Did somebody else tell you? Did they tell you the details? Do you know the details? Do you know? Not do you know the story? Because do you know the story is also the same astrology, but do you actually know the details? Oh, I know a whole bunch of stories. Or the stories are starting to collapse, right? Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, the value of the stories are starting to collapse. They are breaking down. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot going on with this whole chart, and then how all of this works. And now we move on to the ninth house, to Capricorn. Now, this 8th house, 9th house, and even the 7th house, definitely to an extent, is where you see women are more engaged with their relationships, right? Or feminines than masculines are, right? Because we have Libra, right, in the 6th house, so working on improving relationships and fairness every day through Venus values, right? Then in Scorpio in the 7th house, relationships for Taurus and for feminines is about trust. How much do I trust this person? Like, what kind of, what is my depth of trust with this person? Any relationship can be breakthrough, and this is the other. This is what you're going towards with the value systems that you set, that you're going to look for in Taurus, but you're not taking action. There's still no action being taken here. None. Other than to go from deeper into the relationship, or Scorpio, to end the relationship, to cut it off, right? To end it. So you either go deeper, or you can maintain the trust. If something happens and you maintain your trust with somebody, you can go up or down, or maintain. It's Libra. It can be balanced, right? It's the 7th house. It's relationships. And this is any relationships. And this is also open enemies, right? This is, women in their relationships. There are people that they deal with all the time that are their enemies. Now, men do not, masculines don't have this kind of dynamic. Like, if men have enemies, they typically have hidden enemies. Or this is, this can, and with Sagittarius ruling, where Sagittarius is the feminine's 8th house, they can believe that somebody is their enemy. Just because they look like your enemy doesn't mean they are, and just because they say they're not doesn't mean they're not. All right, so when feminines or Tauruses or people of that nature are looking for a relationship, they want depth, obviously, they want trust, and women want expansion, right? This is also I've heard women, especially women, say this. I was talking to this guy and he was kind of nerdy, and then he was really funny, and the next thing I know, I was his girlfriend, right? So you look at professional male comedians, masculine comedians, they're kind of goofy looking dudes, usually a lot of them, that they're silly, they're goofy, they might not even look traditionally handsome, but they throw those jokes, and they keep throwing those jokes, and a lot of times their wives or girlfriends are stunners. They are pretty, they are smart, and they are, so women can fall down to some jokes. Like, men, if you're listening to this, throw them some jokes. They love it. And that built in an interesting way that shows the women that you have depth, you have a sight, you can tell a story that they have not seen or heard, or you can transform something through telling that funny story or that depth of knowledge about that thing and break through it. And there might be some, like if you're telling, jokes about this situation, about this full moon, maybe that'll get you somewhere too around this time period, because Mercury is in Sagittarius. So as soon as Mercury moves from Scorpio into Sag, then there's going to be, from talks of depth to some more jokes about it. And the story, and people might not want to joke about it. It's 8th house is dark things. It's repressed things. So, but in order to build that trust with yourself or somebody else, you've got to talk about it. You've got to talk about the story. Go ahead. be brave and tell some jokes about it, because you start laughing about it, and then you realize that there's another story that will break you through, right? That's another feminine thing. You laugh about something, you're like, oh, then the emotion is not repressed anymore. You have expressed it. And now you move into, you've broken through that. Now you have more wisdom, you have a stability, right? And this is another thing that women look for. They look for an older man, right? Sagittarius is the older people, is the people with the knowledge. So women are secretly seeking out people with knowledge, or they could be the people that have the knowledge, right? Men might be the high priest in various spiritual circles or tribes or whatever that have existed in humanity, except the high priestess always had that strength, that power, that soft, kind of the ability to harness nature. It's a little more terrifying. The high priest might be able to shoot lightning bolts or whatever, but the high priestess, she can summon the jungle at you, and knows how to do things that have been handed down, her secrets that have been handed down about the heritage, about the deep stories of the tribe, and those things become foundational. And it's the same kinds of things. It's another reason why women look for older men, because they are stable, because they know things, because they have shown, they've shown little bits and pieces of wisdom. Like, wait a minute, there's more there. It's intriguing to women, right, to see that knowledge, and then that creates stability. And then for this chart, right, Venus, it will trigger in Capricorn right back to Taurus again, and it will lead them in that direction, go towards it, right? That stability, that institution, right? As long as that institution matches with their global values, right? Not local values, global. Global values can be very loose, and they probably should be, because your values that are closer to your house, like you might keep your room, your bed made and your room tidied up, and keep your pets looked after, and you may not put the laundry away every time, right? But most of your house is put together. Most of your wherever you live is fine. Your car's basically maintained. You keep the grass is cut the grass 2 weeks ago, it's fine, right? Those are tighter values. But do we expect the entire world to have those values? Or if you look around the rest of the world and they're not doing those things, and you go, you know what, I don't have to do that shit either. But you do. Because if you don't decide to do that, that's going to throw off your whole life. And if you have a philosophy, and that's what Sagittarius and the ninth house is, it's philosophy. If you throw off that philosophy of stability, or like in the case of feminism, they were like, I don't want to be controlled at all, right? Then you are taking Venus, throwing her into the 11th house in Pisces, and the world is falling down. Now, the way that we bring that back into order is if men, Aries, become more stable, right? Or if women do things in their daily lives, Libra, to shore that up, to be stable, to be fair, to be level. But if you're always out in the world talking about being a victim, 11th house Pisces, Saturn there, and there's money to be made there, there's stability to be had in being a victim. But do you want to be one? Now, Neptune retrograde here is telling me that you're like the time is running out, because Neptune's gonna be direct, and in a couple of years here in May of next year, Neptune and Saturn are going to enter Aries, and there's going to be some victim energy around still for a while, but over the next by 2026, that victim energy is going to be gone, and you need to be in spot. You need to be wherever you want to be. And this full moon and learning these how this stuff works is part of this structure, this plan that I'm trying to make, and showing people how astrology works, and I hope that I'm not failing at it. So on to the 10th house here for feminines, and for this chart specifically, right? So we have Aquarius in the 10th house. Women are known as humans, right? Like men are known for their stability, for Capricorn, for their being stoic, for being part of an institution, right? Like for their, what did you do? What did you build, right? Are you a captain of industry? Are you stable or are you not? Can you get it done or not? Right? Women, that's their philosophies about can their philosophies get it done or not? Can your beliefs get it done or not? And then women are known for more for their friends, for their values, for their vibe, right? And Aquarius is also, there's a Libra element, so because it's an air sign, but it's about moving forward. It's about moving humanity forward. Women are known for the humans, to being the humans, right? Because the 5th house is the creation aspect, right? Leo. And for women, that is the home, 4th house, emotions. And it is the 5th house, Virgo, work, creation, right? To work, to create. All right? And one of the reflections of the 5th house is the 10th, right? So actors and actresses, when you see a character, like when you see Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, you see the 10th house. He's the character. Deadpool is the mask that Ryan Reynolds wears, right? Or, whatever, like whatever character Meryl Streep is playing in a movie, to an extent, she's wearing the mask of that character, right? The 10th house is our character. And that is created, from our childhood, from being a child, right? And so women have the character of humanity. And that's where, and they are, their job is to stabilize that, is to stabilize the character of humanity. Now, I'm not saying that men are off the hook for not stabilizing this, for keeping the heritage, and giving women the structure that is needed to stabilize that, because without the stabilization of Capricorn, without rules, without boundaries, and without stability, you end up with what we have in the world right now. Things are going all over the place in too many different directions. We are not focused as a people. Our families are falling apart. We don't have many friends. People are having to move too often. Too many erratic things, right? Because personally, I think people are being too emotional about stuff. And this is coming from a Cancer. So I know that when I have been emotional about things, my life is not steady. I don't feel steady. I do not feel like I am moving forward, Aquarius. I do not feel like my vibe is cool and chill, right? So be cool and be chill. Aquarius is an air sign. There is no emotion in it. Now for this transit, for this full moon, there is, because Uranus is with the moon and Saturn is in Pisces. But he's drying up the water. He is giving stability to the connections, or he is creating stability with the disconnections. So are you creating connection? And is it stabilizing? Or are you disconnecting? And is it stabilizing, right? So you have to ask yourself that question. And those two things are happening here for this transit and in general, right? For, again, anybody that's Taurus, doesn't matter what your orientation is, if you're a Taurus or you're a feminine, this is how your life works. There's different aspects in it, but in general, this is how it works. Your stability comes from to an extent, the world, but you have to have knowledge of it from Capricorn. You have to work on it a long time, right? Everybody's like, oh, Sagittarius comes before Capricorn, so you get to the Capricorn, you get to the Sagittarius things before you get to... Nope, that is not how that works. This is one of the biggest things that people do not understand about astrology. Even seasoned astrologers that have been doing this stuff for decades do not understand this. I think because they're not older. I am 50. I am in my Sagittarian season. I have made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I also know things. I may not drink and know things. Well, I do drink some, but I'm not like, Tyrion Lannister. I drink and I know things. Well, I have lived and I know things. So, knowing things helps stability. And that's not feeling things. That's knowing. That's combining the information together, right? Because Sagittarius is the 9th house. So, 9 is 4 plus 5, right? 4 being Cancer, 5 being Life and Leo. So mommy and daddy together they can grow old. They can grow wise. So if you can balance your creation energy with your nurturing energy, then you can become wise. That's how wisdom works. And again, back to the Taurus and back to the feminines, that actually creates stability. You can create business like that, but you're going to have to hold on to that for a long time. It's going to take you until you're almost in your 50s to do it. Is it going to break through and do really cool stuff before then? Yes. Is it going to settle in before then? And absolutely not. Nope. Even if you're in a good solid family and they've been teaching you this stuff for years, you're gonna get in your late 40s and you're like, oh, well, that's what they meant. And you're going to actually completely know what they meant instead of, oh, I got that. Yeah, I got pieces of that. And you think you know, you think you do, but you don't. And then that stability goes right into Aquarius and it stabilizes, right? I think about Aquarius as walking, right? The foot that's on the ground, that's planted, is Saturn, is Capricorn. The foot that is moving forward so that you can walk is Uranus. And it can move all over the place. There can be all kinds of stuff in your way, in your path, in Saturn. But again, it's an air sign, so you're paying attention. It's about mind. It's about knowing the vibe. Like people have different walking gaits. Like some people's walks look a little odd. Some people's walks look normal. And this is exactly, this is another one of those things. Like you can tell either a Taurus or a woman by their walk. You can pick them out. Right? You can tell whether they're stable or not by just watching them walk. And this is one of the things that men do. Men will sit at a cafe and watch women just walk. They're not gawking at them. They just watch them. I like sitting at a cafe and having a coffee and just watching people walk, watching people drive up and down the street and stop and tie their shoe or get out of the car or pay the parking meter. Just watch life. Just watch people be humans. It's very enlightening. And then we move into the 11th house, right? Because we started with Taurus. So instead of Pisces being in the last, right? Now we have come to, this is the point of magic for women, is in society, right? We've stabilized it in the 10th house. We have realized that there is stability in human nature, even if it's going forward, as long as it's not too erratic. And we have decided, are we going to do this, yes or no? If something is out of tolerance, if something's too far, if something's not cool anymore in Aquarius, you make the decision in Pisces, we're not doing that. Right? Or if it is cool, we are doing that. Now there's a rush. You feel that magic. You feel like, oh my God, I like that. That's really cool. Like if something really hits you, and this is also a bit of a caretaking energy. Venus in Taurus, Venus in Libra, and then Venus exalted, but not ruling Pisces in the 11th house, because it's air. It can be moved very quickly, and because Pisces is water and it's in an air placement here, public opinion can swing this all the way around and destroy the magic. Because if the water can't coalesce, it can't get anywhere. That water can't soak down into you and then be stable and be steady like in Taurus, or be fair like in Libra. Then it's gone. And then what you need after that, if Venus is gone, what you need is you have to go Aries and go find it. Then you have to take action. Well, that sucks. Like, I was trying to have these friends and my friend group fell down, and because our value systems didn't match up, now what do I have to do? Now you have to go find more friends. 12th house, Aries. And you don't want to go find more friends. But have you been cultivating new friends in Scorpio? Have you been breaking through? Did the new people you meet, from that, did they, in Pisces, is there a little bit of a magical element? Or things, if you don't maintain, right? If you don't maintain your life, 5th house Virgo, maintain your life, do the work on it, work on life. If you don't do that, then you won't have friends, right? If you don't go out with your friends, you won't have them. If you just stay at home all the time, then they won't be there. And that's another problem that we have in our current global culture. We lean on technology, and this may be another thing with this transit. Stop leaning on technology. Go talk to your friends. Go to where they are. See their faces. Go to them, right? Instead of just texting, or instead of just I did a video chat with them. Yeah, but did you go out and hang out with them? Did you have a cup of coffee with them? Did you sit on their porch? Did they sit on your porch? You guys go to the park? Even did you go to a movie, right? And just sit beside them and just watch something fun? Or even if you hated the movie, you leave it, you're like, oh man, that sucked. Did you do that? Right? And that will break you through. That will break through your life, and that will show you a new direction to go. But you have to be willing to go into that space of trust, Scorpio, where the sun is. And when you go into that space of trust, if you have it or you don't, that will show you, with that Mars in Leo, where to go. Now, after this, with some of these other transits, Mars is going to back up and move back into Cancer, because we're going to have to adjust our direction. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that or how that's going to feel, but for your personal life, there's going to be elements you're like, oh, right, I do need to go in another direction. There's going to be a lot of breakups that are going to happen with that Mars retrograde going from Leo back into Cancer. But after that, and Mars does that every 2 years. So, 2021 was the last time. So, or 2022, excuse me. So, you can do this. They can be done. And, looking at the differences and how Aries and Taurus do things. And again, I really hope that that came across. Maybe when I go into some of the other ones, I might skip to Aquarius next. That way it'll kind of bring this in a little tighter, so that you can see how it works as far as humanity is concerned. Or I might even go back to Aries and then show how Aries works with Taurus. So thank you for your patience, everyone, and appreciate it. I am still open for readings. I will be moving here soon, but that won't hamper me at all. I can definitely schedule around it. And as always, this is North Node Astrology, and go towards your divine destiny.